Released in 2007, Transformers is the film that turned a children's toy line into a global phenomenon. A summer blockbuster so loud and relentless that it rewired what audiences expected from action cinema. But behind all the explosions, there are stories nobody told you. Did you know Michael Bay called it a stupid toy movie before agreeing to direct it?
Because by the way, it's just a dangerous business.
Or that he told Shia LaBeouf his mother was dying on set just to get a real reaction on camera.
You don't seem afraid. Are you not surprised to see us?
Today, we're counting down 15 hidden truths about Transformers, including the real war that started the whole franchise and the Pentagon deal that put more military hardware on screen than Apocalypse Now.
But we were already too late.
15. The Iraq invasion triggered the whole project. Transformers did not begin as a passion project. It began as a business decision triggered by geopolitics. Producer Don Murphy had been developing a G.I. Joe adaptation in 2003 when the United States launched its invasion of Iraq. Hasbro executives contacted Murphy directly and suggested that a film about military robots fighting on American soil might play better in the current climate than a straightforward G.I. Joe story. Murphy agreed. He brought in Tom DeSanto, a genuine fan of the Generation 1 cartoon and comics, to write a treatment. DeSanto positioned it as a human story, the civilian caught between two warring robot factions, specifically to give audiences a point of entry. Murphy wanted it to feel like a disaster film with realistic stakes. The treatment featured Optimus Prime, Megatron, Bumblebee, and Starscream as the characters required for every version of the script. A real war launched in the Middle East was the catalyst that put giant alien robots on cinema screens in 2007. 14. Michael Bay called it a stupid toy movie and almost said no. When Steven Spielberg called Michael Bay on July 30th, 2005 and asked him to direct Transformers, Bay's first response was dismissal. He told Spielberg it was a stupid toy movie and that he had no interest in making it.
I'm not doing that movie. That's what I said to myself. I'm not doing a toy movie.
Bay had just finished The Island, which had underperformed at the box office, and was not looking for a franchise assignment built around a children's toy line. What changed his mind was the opportunity to work with Spielberg again, the director who had inspired Bay's entire filmmaking ambition. Bay agreed to meet. He visited Hasbro and came away with a genuine respect for the mythology. He then read the first script draft and called it too kiddie. He pushed for a larger military presence, darker stakes, and a more serious tone for the robot characters. The producers had deliberately hidden the earliest draft from Bay before he committed, fearing it would scare him off completely. The director, who initially dismissed the project as a stupid toy movie, went on to make 5 of them. 13. The fan campaign brought Peter Cullen back. When it was announced that Transformers was being developed as a live-action film, one issue generated more response from the fan community than any other. Who would voice Optimus Prime? Peter Cullen had originated the role in the 1984 animated television series, defining the character's voice, cadence, and moral gravity for an entire generation. Fans organized a coordinated campaign demanding that Cullen be brought back rather than replaced with a different actor. The campaign reached the producers. Bay personally auditioned both Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, who had voiced Megatron in the original series, for their respective roles. Cullen got the job.
For in those memories, we live on.
Welker auditioned for Megatron, but Bay decided his voice wasn't intimidating enough for the film's version of the character.
Excellent. Now it's merely a matter of time.
And cast Hugo Weaving instead. Cullen later described returning to Optimus Prime as slipping into an old pair of very comfortable shoes. The fans got exactly what they asked for. Welker eventually returned as Megatron's voice in the sequels.
Are you username ladiesman217?
12. Spielberg's one rule was no CGI on practical stunts. Steven Spielberg's primary creative directive to Michael Bay during production was specific: restrict CGI to the robots and background elements. Everything else, the stunt work, the crashes, the explosions, had to be done practically. Bone Crusher smashing through a bus was a real stunt. Cameras were physically placed inside car crashes and explosions to generate the impact that Bay wanted. The result was a film where the digital robots were surrounded by genuinely physical chaos, which gave the action sequences a tactile quality that pure CGI environments couldn't have provided. Bay took that directive seriously. The military hardware, jets, helicopters, tanks, was all real and operational, loaned by the U.S. Armed Forces. The production coordinator confirmed it was the largest military cooperation with a motion picture in Hollywood history involving more hardware than Apocalypse Now. Spielberg wanted the robots to feel like they were landing in the real world. Bay built that world around them before a single robot frame was rendered. 11. The Pentagon cooperation was bigger than any film before it. The U.S. Department of Defense provided Transformers with an extraordinary level of military support, described by the production as the largest military cooperation in Hollywood history. Real military bases were used as filming locations. The Air Force provided operational F-22 Raptors, MH-53 Pavlo helicopters, and C-17 Globemaster transport aircraft. The Navy provided an aircraft carrier. The Army provided tanks and personnel. Josh Duhamel and Tyrese Gibson underwent 3 days of basic training at Fort Irwin, California, supervised by Harry Humphreys, a former Navy SEAL, to prepare for their roles as soldiers. In exchange for the cooperation, the Department of Defense had script approval over the military sequences, ensuring the armed forces were portrayed positively. Bay got more hardware than he could use. The Pentagon got a 2-hour recruitment film built into a summer blockbuster. 10. Bumblebee was originally a Volkswagen Beetle. In the original 1984 Transformers animated series, Bumblebee transformed into a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, a small, humble car that matched the character's personality as the most approachable and human-connected of the Autobots. The film version changed that to a Chevrolet Camaro. The switch was not a creative decision. It was a commercial one. General Motors had entered a product placement deal with the production, providing vehicles for the Autobots in exchange for the marketing exposure of having their cars appear as heroes in a major summer film. Volkswagen was not part of that deal. The Camaro fit the character's spirit, young, accessible American, while also satisfying GM's requirement that the heroic robots drive their vehicles. The production tracked down 3 1977 Camaros from Palmdale in Oklahoma, fully rebuilt and repainted them for the film's first act, then upgraded Bumblebee to a new 2007 Camaro concept model mid-story when Michaela suggests the alien robot could use a better look. Chevrolet reported that Camaro interest spiked significantly after the film's release. 9. Megan Fox's audition involved working on Bay's Ferrari. Megan Fox's path to casting in Transformers was unusual. She was a relatively unknown actress who had appeared briefly in Bad Boys 2 and was not the obvious choice for a major summer franchise. Her audition involved a scene that Bay filmed at his home, where Fox worked on one of his Ferrari cars, a scene designed to approximate the kind of interaction her character Michaela would have with vehicles throughout the film. Fox later described the scene publicly in several different ways across the years. She initially described being asked to wash Bay's car, a characterization that generated significant controversy. She later clarified on Instagram that she was not underage at the time of the audition and that the car work was part of an audition scene rather than something extraneous to the script, specifically pretending to know how to hold a wrench on one of Bay's Ferraris. The distinction between versions of the story reflects the broader complexity of Fox's entire relationship with the franchise, a career that the film launched and that the same production eventually ended. 8. ILM's animators were hardcore fans given free rein. Industrial Light and Magic handled approximately 75% of Transformers' visual effects. The work required building fully photorealistic digital robots containing thousands of individual moving parts. Each Transformers design included components in constant motion, even when the robot was standing still. Many of the ILM animators assigned to the film were genuine Transformers fans. At least one of them had decorated his office with more Transformers toys than most collectors owned. Bay gave the animators significant creative latitude, and they used it. A scene where Jazz attacks Brawl during the final battle is a direct homage to a scene from the 1986 animated film The Transformers the Movie, a reference that most audience members didn't catch, but that the animators had specifically built in as a tribute. The people building the digital robots were the same people who had grown up watching those robots on Saturday morning television. Their enthusiasm was in every frame. 7. Roland Emmerich wanted to direct it. First, Michael Bay was not the first filmmaker approached about Transformers. Roland Emmerich, the director of Independence Day, Godzilla, and The Day After Tomorrow, was interested in directing the film. Before DreamWorks committed to Bay, the studio wanted Bay instead. Emmerich moved on. The difference between the two directors' sensibilities is significant enough that a Transformers directed by Emmerich would have been a meaningfully different film. Emmerich tends toward ensemble casts, global-scale destruction, and a more anonymous human center, while Bay's instinct was to ground everything in a specific teenage protagonist and surround him with military characters. Whether the global disaster movie version or the coming-of-age with explosions version was the right call is an argument that critics and fans have been having since 2007. DreamWorks chose Bay. The film grossed $709 million. Emmerich made 10,000 BC, instead 6. Michael Bay made a hidden cameo as Megatron's victim. Michael Bay appears in Transformers. He confirmed it himself on the film's DVD audio commentary. During the final battle sequence in Mission City, Megatron reaches down and flicks a bystander against a taxi cab. The bystander is Bay. The cameo is brief, physical, and uncredited, a director inserting himself into his own film in the most unglamorous way possible as a person who gets casually batted aside by the villain. Bay has a history of appearing in his own productions, but typically in background roles that require no acknowledgement. Being flicked into a taxi by Megatron is, by any measure, the most appropriate cameo Michael Bay has ever given himself. Patton Oswalt also confirmed after the film's release that he did uncredited script doctoring on the film, another contribution to Transformers that appeared nowhere in the official credits. 5. Optimus Prime's movement was modeled on Liam Neeson. When ILM and the motion capture team were building the way Optimus Prime moved on screen, they needed a physical reference point. It's a human template for how a noble, commanding, physically powerful figure carries himself. The choice was Liam Neeson. The animators studied Neeson's physicality and his posture, his deliberate movement, the way he occupies space with authority, and used it as the foundation for Prime's body language and locomotion. The connection is visible on screen if you know to look for it. Prime doesn't move like a machine. He moves like a man of considerable size and moral weight who never needs to hurry because his presence alone communicates what needs to be communicated. Using Neeson as the physical template for an alien robot leader is exactly the kind of production detail that sounds strange until you watch the film and realize it completely works. 4. Shia LaBeouf's first day released the dogs. Shia LaBeouf's very first day of filming on Transformers set the tone for everything that followed. The scene was Sam being chased and attacked by guard dogs. One dog in particular refused to stop chasing LaBeouf after the director called cut. The dog kept coming. LaBeouf kept running. Nobody intervened quickly enough. He summarized the experience later with a phrase that became something of a personal motto for the production. Welcome to Michael Bay's sets. Release the hounds. LaBeouf went on to perform a significant amount of his own stunt work throughout the film. His expression of genuine fear during that scene required no acting. The guard dogs on the first day had been good preparation for everything that followed. 3. The Scorponok explosion was real and nobody warned the soldiers during the desert sequence where Scorponok erupts from the sand behind the fleeing soldiers. The explosive effects were achieved using Primacord, a flexible cord packed with explosive material that detonates along its entire length simultaneously, producing a line of ground-level explosions rather than a single blast. Michael Bay had told Josh Duhamel, Tyrese Gibson, and the supporting cast one instruction before the scene: run and keep running no matter what happens. He did not specify how close the explosions would be. The cast ran. The Primacord detonated in the ground directly behind them. The expressions of genuine terror on their faces as they sprinted away from the detonations required no direction because the danger was real. Bay later confirmed the reaction shots were completely authentic. 2. Aziz Ansari turned down a role over a stereotypical accent before becoming famous through Parks and Recreation and Master of None. Aziz Ansari was offered a role in Transformers as an Indian call center employee. He turned it down. His reason was straightforward. The role required him to perform an exaggerated Indian accent that he considered a degrading stereotype, and he declined rather than take the job under those conditions. The role eventually went to someone else. A future Emmy and Peabody winner said no to a role in one of the decade's biggest films because the character's only defining trait was a caricature of his heritage. The film made $709 million without him. He made better decisions with his career than the role would have allowed. 1. Bay told LaBeouf his mother was dying and used the footage during the scene where Bumblebee is captured by Sector 7 and restrained on a rack of equipment. Sam Witwicky is desperate, panicking, screaming at the agents to stop. The emotion LaBeouf displays in that sequence is raw and genuine in a way that stood out to audiences and critics. The reason is specific. Michael Bay pulled LaBeouf aside before the scene and told him that his mother had been in an accident and was in critical condition at the hospital. LaBeouf believed him. He went into the scene carrying the genuine shock and devastation of a person who had just received the worst possible news about someone he loved. Bay used that performance. The cameras were already rolling. After filming, Bay told LaBeouf the truth, that his mother was fine and that nothing had happened. A film that started with a real war, used real explosions, borrowed a real voice, and manufactured real grief for the camera. Which fact hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the blockbusters that went further behind the scenes than anyone knew. Until next time,